Just a few weeks back, we test drove this model, the mid-year newest release from this manufacturer. This week, it's back again, but with some hybrid technology under the hood. And that meant it is road trip worthy. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe Hybrid. And what it brought with it was some great fuel economy and the ability to go see some scenic waterfalls. The weekly test drive here on Road Warrior pretty much isn't really anything exciting, just the daily drive, the point A to B, the nuts and bolts of life. But when you have hybrid technology awaiting under the hood, well, you got to do a little bit more of, well, a road trip worthiness. And that's exactly what this vehicle delivered, taking us to our favorite points of destination, the western part of North Carolina, the mountainous region, taking us to the scenic overlooks, the waterfalls, the wooded splendid beauty. And thankfully I was able to bring back a little bit of that B-roll that many of you asked for. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, the big changes for the mid-year release on the Santa Fe for 2021 is the exterior enhancements. Where you see it most notably is on the profile. Now, the Santa Fe, in my opinion, hasn't been a plain Jane, but definitely this has added a little bit more curb appeal. Maybe the biggest enhancement is here on the grille warfare, most notably the new headlight assembly. But the other big news for 2021 is this hybrid technology, and to come is the plug-in hybrid as well. But right now, this is what we test drove, and what we like is that added fuel economy. And I thought Hyundai has really got their stuff together, again, with its overall design capabilities, but adding the hybrid just puts it in another notch, allowing consumers really to have the best of all worlds and choices. Now, when it comes to size, this vehicle fits modestly into the mid-size segment, around about 188 inches overall, around about 108 inches when it comes to wheelbase, with about 74 inches wide and 66 inches tall. Lastly, is ground clearance around about 8.2 inches, which comes in handy because this, of course, came in the all-wheel drive model. With overall size of this vehicle, third row capabilities just isn't going to fit into the equation, meaning this is a 5-person hauler, but great cargo to boot. And that's really going to come in handy for the weekend getaway or even that week-long vacation. And where it all begins is here at the back end. Now, this is the limited model in the hybrid technology, which means you're going to have a powered rear hatch, making life so much simpler. Just simply hit the electronic release here, or certainly there on the key fob. Now, once this rises to the occasion, what you're seeing is a massive amount of acreage, around about 36 cubic feet of space. With the second row laid flat, that's going to double to around about 72 cubic feet. But what I also find is what lies beneath this floor, and well, let's get into the weeds to see what awaits. Second row is going to be a 60-40 split, allowing you to do various setups when it comes to people and cargo. But once everything's laid flat, huge amount of interior volume, and especially if you only have a 2-person weekend getaway, that means you can take a lot of items with you, or you can pack lightly and bring a lot of items back. What I also like is what's going on underneath here. First off, that area, little battery component, as well as the tools should you need to change the tire. The tools right there where you need it. Now, interestingly, I didn't think this vehicle came with a spare tire, mainly because just what's going on underneath here. I didn't think there was space enough, but once you look underneath the back there, tire mounted on the outside, exactly where that's supposed to be. But what I like is what you see underneath here. First off, kind of this tri-split folding cargo top. Once you fold it back and remove it, you're going to see this heavy, rigid styrofoam storage compartment that really allows, even on the typical grocery run, to put your items in here so they don't sling around. Should they have any type of spillage, this is just real easy to clean up. All you have to do is just simply take it out, spray it off, and then put it right back in. Also makes for a nice cleanup in general underneath this as well. And I like the fact that this isn't carpeted, making it, again, just a nice easy wipe and clean. When the second row lays flat, it's going to lock into place. You'll just need to unlock it with the lever here on the side. What I also like is the front rows are in their furthest back position, and the second row can lay flat even with the headrest in place. Now to unlock it, just simply again, pull this lever, put your hand here. Once you get it to the vertical, then you'll want to ease it into the right kind of reclinability and comfort you want, then release it. That way you can pretty much find comfort exactly where you want it. But the overall size of this vehicle is just not big enough for a tri-zone climate control system, but there is great airflow with the positioning of the vents for the backseat drivers there on the back of the center console. But one thing that's going to help keep things nice and cool in the heat of the summer are these sunshades found here on the limited model. Just pull them right up, locks into place with ease. Now, one thing I did find is they do create kind of a blind spot when you're driving, especially there on the driver's side. When you look over your left shoulder, this tends to kind of dampening the look through the window just as you look over your shoulder. So when they're not needed, I would prefer to kind of keep those down. And again, this vehicle does have these blind spot awareness there on the mirror, but if you're old school like me, you tend to always look over that shoulder, and there on the driver's side, these do tend to block your view just a hair. With hybrid door on the side, you're not looking for 0 to 60 numbers, but instead that great fuel economy. And what I like is the gauge cluster tells you that in real time, allowing you to kind of dampen that expectation on the accelerator and look for better fuel numbers. Now, what we have specifically under the hood is a 1.6 liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder that delivers around about 178 horses and 195 foot-pounds of torque. But more specifically, were those fuel numbers averaging around about 31 miles per gallon for a week-long test drive. When it comes to backseat drivers, shouldn't hear a lot of complaints, mainly with the overall comfort here in the back seat. First off, with the design of the seat bottoms, no standard bench styling here, but really with extra comfort there on the outer side, and even for the center occupant as you sweep up the seat backs, really finding extra support and great pillow cushioning here at the top. When it comes to the center console, when it flips down, giving you great elbow support as well as room enough for 2 beverages. And again, great airflow in the form of the venting on the back of the center console, as well as connectivity in the form of multiple USBs and traditional household outlet. When it comes to legroom numbers, you're going to find huge amount of space, around about 44 inches in the front and 41 inches in the back. And obviously with an SUV, you're not having that traditional foot placement argument because everything on the floor is nice and flat. Lastly, it's just one more level of comfort, and that's going to be in the form of heated seats for the outer occupants in the back row. If backseat drivers do complain, well, the pilot's probably not going to be listening, mainly because of, well, the comfort that's delivered for them. First off, with the multiple power controls as well as this extra thigh support, just simply press that button and that front area is just going to roll out, giving that extra, well, comfort when needed. Now, you've seen this on previous test drives, how this kind of default screen really is supposed to be less distracting, allow you to have simplicity and only dive in when you need to see more information, specifically like for the infotainment system. Basically click on it and you'll get the display for the radio. Then you can just dial in your specific settings. If you need to, you can go back to the home screen. That's going to give you the multiple looks, and just simply swipe to the right and that'll get you back here. Now, one interesting kind of modest problem I found is when you sweep down, you do have multiple controls for the climate, everything right where you need it. But the only thing I don't necessarily like is the mode select when it came to venting. Certainly when you press it, it does show you there at the top what mode you're in, but then that does go away and goes back to the default screen. So one thing I do like on some other touchscreen systems like this on other vehicles is the climate screen. Now, I simply did find that shortcut. If you look down here, you can just simply hit that button, then you're going to get to the climate screen. But then this is where it gets a little kind of hard and confusing. Now, first off, you do have the dual zones that clearly tell you which the passenger and driver are set to, the fan speed down below. But then you have kind of this blurred look of the dash, and it took me a few minutes to really figure out what's going on here. Now, if you look a little tighter, you'll see that the blue indicates kind of the temperature setting of that particular airflow on that side. Each passenger and driver can kind of heat and cool things up. So this does give you kind of that indicator. And what I finally realized is it's showing what venting is going on. Now, it looks a little clearer here on the video, but in person it has kind of a blurred look. As you change the mode select, then it'll show you down below that is the center vents and the lower vents. Press it again, now it's just the floor vents. Press it again, now it's the upper vent. Press it again, now you're back to the middle. One thing I'd prefer is more of an interface like you see on some of the competition. That kind of gives you that implied silhouette of a person, shows where the venting is a little bit easier to look at. This takes just an extra second to understand. Also, these down here just aren't functional. These again relate to the buttons down below. Once you press it, it tells you what's going on. Once you press this one, and so on. But again, you don't really interact with this as much as you do these buttons down here. Now sweeping over to the gauge clutch, you're going to find a huge LCD display giving you all the various information with the typical digital readout there in the middle for speed, as well as the old traditional look on the far left side. Now the big information for this hybrid is on the right side, telling you exactly what's going on when it comes to your econo effort versus power versus charging up. And you're seeing down there in real time the fuel economy, telling you where you're, well, keeping things in check, whether you're being too aggressive on the accelerator or being more fuel efficient. One big feature I like was the adaptive cruise control, the settings found here on the right side of the steering wheel. Real easy to use. Also has that vehicle placement, allowing you to set the space between you and other vehicles. But what I also like is the lane assist button you can turn on or off. That allows this vehicle to sense the lane markings, keeping this vehicle nice and centered. It's going to give you that little extra assist, tugging left and right when needed. You obviously have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but that just helps on those long trips with driver fatigue. Between the front occupants, you will find dual cup holders. One's hidden underneath here, the other one right front and center where you need it. Does have the spring material, holds any size drinks from slinging around. The other one hidden down here doesn't have the gripping material, so smaller beverages may bang around just a hair. One thing I also noticed is that with this one being a little bit higher, it will handle small drinks. You can grab them with ease. This one with smaller beverages like a coffee or whatever, with the top of the lid being about here, it can make it somewhat difficult to actually get in there. Basically with the extra elevation, this is just getting tucked way down too low. What you're going to see over here is a nice little niche. That's going to be the wireless charging capabilities. Just take your so equipped device, slide it in. And what I do like is even with the size of my phone with the case, easily slides in. Not the fastest charging capabilities, but it is there and can charge up fairly nicely. Now, I mentioned earlier how the infotainment system really utilizes the controls down below for climate. Other controls can also be found in this area. First off, for drive select mode from Econo, Sport, Snow, and Smart, just simply dial in what you're looking for. Heated steering wheel, as well as other functions here on the right side. Heating or cooling up the front seats is an option here on the limited. Just simply find your selector knob and dial it in. As for gear selection, that's going to be in the form of a push button for reverse neutral drive, all found here, versus the gear selector. Again, there's an argument's sake whether people prefer that or traditional selector. I'll let you decide. So the Hyundai Santa Fe definitely delivers, and with this mid-year release and all the enhancements, they're taking this vehicle up a notch. Now adding the hybrid under the hood takes this vehicle to the next level, because no better way to deliver you from point A to B than looking classy on the outside and refined on the inside. And that's exactly what fuel economy can do. Makes you look smarter without working harder. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.